everybody, it's Teresa. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to do tubular peyote today. Not a hard stitch. The hardest part is getting started, which is almost always the hardest part of any bead weaving project, is just the getting started part because you don't have much to hold on to. I usually do it with 11/0s, but I tried it and I don't think you all would have been able to see what I'm doing if I tried to do it with 11/0s. So I'm going to use 8/0s. And I wanted to use some opaque colors because I think it's easier to see those than the shiny colors. And I don't have as big a selection of 8/0s as I do 11/0s. So I was kind of limited in my color choices here. I'm going to have to make an order because I'm running low on some of my staple beads anyway that I use all the time, like these galvanized silver ones and the Durcoat galvanized champagne ones, things that I use all the time. So I'm going to have to break down and make an order. Although I really seriously need to be on a bead freeze right now, a bead buying freeze right now, because my bank account tells me that I need to be not buying any more beads. But seed beads are a staple if you're going to do bead weaving. You've got to have them. So I've got my 8-pound fire line here. I've got opaque dark red 8/0. I've got opaque lavender 8/0. I've got opaque light blue 8/0. And then I've got some of my galvanized silver, and these are 11/0s, and I'm just going to be using these to cinch the end of the tube closed a little bit when I get to the end. I have this leather here, and it's already got a lobster clasp and extender chain on it. I've had these forever, and I just never have done anything with them. I don't know why. They're about 18 inches, so this will probably be like a choker style necklace. And I'm going to try, when I get my tube made, I'm going to try to feed this through my tube and then have the beaded portion through my tube. I don't know, doing it with these 8/0s, it might look kind of weird on this little thin leather, but I'm going to see how that works out. I've got 2 size 11 tulip beading needles here, and I've got one of them threaded already with a stop bead, and I've left about a 10-inch tail. I'm not going to be adding a clasp, but I'm going to be cinching the end closed, like I said, and so that's what I'm going to use that 10 inches for, to do that. I've got my crochet hook here that I'm going to use to put my tube on to bead around it. It just kind of helps. You don't have to have this. You can use anything. You can use a wooden dowel, a straw, a drinking straw, a pen. You can roll up a piece of paper if you want to, and put it through the center of your beadwork to help you with it, or you don't have to use it at all, but I'm going to use that. I've got my scissors to cut my fire line with, and then I've got my chain nose pliers I use that to flatten my thread so I can get it through the eye of the needle. And I think that's everything. So I'm going to get some of this out of the way, get some of my beads poured out, and I'll be back. Okay, I've got some of my beads poured out here. See if I can get in here so that it doesn't blur, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to do a diagonal pattern, and I know I do that a lot, but I think it's easier to see when I change up the colors of the beads. I'm going to do 2 rows of my blue, 2 rows of my lavender, and 1 row of my red. And that's because I don't have very many red. So I probably would have had enough to do 2 rows, but I don't know for sure. So I'm gonna do one line of red, 2 lines of blue, 2 lines of the lavender. And when you do peyote, you're picking up your first 2 rows at once. I know that's kind of confusing, but that's the way it works. So if I want to do 2 rows of lavender, I need to pick up 4 beads to start out with. So I'm going to pick up 4 of my lavender beads. And then I want to do 2 rows of my blue, so I'm going to pick up 4 of my blue. And then I'm going to do 1 row of my red, so I'm going to pick up 2 of my red. So I've got 10 beads on my needle there. 4 lavender, 4 blue, and 2 red. So now I'm going to bring this down to my stop bead. Hold on, I'm gonna have to reposition my camera here. I had to reposition it. I couldn't see in it, and I need to see in it to see whether or not you can see what I'm doing. So now I'm just gonna come back through all these beads again and turn them into a circle. I like to go through all my beads in my first round at least once more to kind of strengthen it, because it helps if your base is fairly tight. You can go through them even more than once if you want to. I'm going to come through my, actually I think I am going to go through them more than once because this feels still kind of loose. It's these bigger 8/0 beads are harder. It's harder to keep them good and tight, and in this stitch it's important to keep good tension on your thread to keep it good and tight when you're doing this. And I'm going to come out, move my stop bead out of the way here. I'm going to come out my last red bead there. Now to do this diagonal pattern like I'm doing, we're going to do just like we did in the flat peyote. We're going to pick up a bead and skip a bead. And to do this diagonal pattern like I want to do, I need to pick up the bead. Always pick up the bead I'm coming out of. Now I've got 10 beads on my thread here, but since I'm going to pick up a bead and skip a bead, I'm only going to be adding 5 every time. So like I've got 4 purple, I'm only going to be adding 2 purple each time. I've got 4 blue, I'm only going to be adding 2 blue each time. I've got 2 red, I'm only going to be adding 1 red each time. And in order to be able to keep up with where your step up is, I a lot of times will lay out the beads that for each round in a little pile by themselves away from my other beads. So I know, let me get some of these up here out of the way. So I know I'm going to be, I've got 4 beads, so I know, purple, so I know I'm going to be adding 2. I've got 4 blue, so I know I'm going to be adding 2. I've got 2 red, so I know I'm going to be adding 1. So I'm going to put 2 blue, 2 purple, and 2 red out here. And then when I get all them picked up, I'll know it's time to do my step up. So I'm going to do this diagonal pattern, I need to always pick up the bead I'm coming out of. So I'm coming out of a red. So I'm going to pick up my red out of my little pile here. And I'm going to skip this purple bead, and I'm going to go into the next purple bead. Pull my thread through. And that sets my red bead next to the purple bead that I skipped there, just like in flat peyote. Now, I'm coming out of a purple bead, so I'm going to pick up a purple bead out of my little pile. And I'm going to skip the next purple bead and go in the next purple bead and pull my thread through. And that sits that purple bead next to the purple bead I skipped. Now I'm coming out of a purple bead, so I'm going to pick up another purple bead out of my pile, little pile here, which is my last one. And I'm going to skip this blue bead, and I'm going to go into this blue bead. I'm going to pull my thread through. So that sets that purple bead next to the blue bead I skipped. Now I'm coming out of a blue bead, so I'm going to pick up a blue bead. I'm going to skip that blue bead and go into the next blue bead. Pull my thread through. Pull it up tight. That's going to sit that blue bead next to the blue bead I skipped. Now I'm coming out of a blue bead. I only have a blue bead left in my little pile I made, so I know this is where my step up is going to be. So I've got my blue bead. I'm going to skip this red bead. I'm going to go into the red bead, the next red bead behind it, and then I'm going to go up into that red bead on the diagonal, which is the first bead I put in on this round, and that's my step up. I'm going to pull that through. And that sits that red bead there next to the red bead I skipped. Now I'm going to turn my work around here. I'm not going to put it on my crochet hook yet because I want to leave it laid out here for a minute. Now, like I said, I'm always going to be adding one red bead, two blue beads, and two purple beads. So I'm going to put them out here in a little pile all by themselves. Now, this part can be kind of confusing, but I'm going to try to show you what's going on here. So you've got 5 beads sticking out here, and these are always the beads we're going to be going into, the 5 that are sticking up. Now, this is gonna look weird. I'm trying to get this down here so I can show you what it's gonna look like once I pull it up into a tube. I'm coming out of a red. So I'm gonna pick up my red bead. And I'm going to have to go into this purple bead right here. And that looks like an awful long far way away. It looks like I'm skipping more than one bead. But I'm not really, because if I were to pull this up into a tube right now, that red bead right there is sitting next to this purple bead. And that purple bead is sitting next to that purple bead. So I'm really just skipping this purple bead. It just looked, because I've not got it pulled up into a tube yet, it looks like I'm skipping 2 beads, but I'm not. So I'm going to go into the purple bead. Pull my thread tight. Now, same thing here. It looks like I'm skipping more than one bead here, but I'm not, because when I pull it up into a tube, these 2 purple beads are sitting next to each other, and this purple bead is sitting next to this blue bead. So really the only one I'm skipping is this purple bead. So I'm coming out of a purple bead, so I'm going to pick up a purple bead out of my little pile. I'm going to go into this purple bead sticking out. I'm going to pull it tight. Now, same thing over here. If I pull it up into a tube, this purple bead is sitting next to this blue bead, and these 2 blue beads are sitting next to each other, so I'm only skipping this blue bead. So I'm coming out of a purple. I'm going to pick up a purple out of my little pile. I'm going to go into this blue that's sticking out. Now, same thing here. When I pull it up into a tube, this blue bead is going to be sitting next to this blue bead. This blue bead sitting next to this red bead, so I'm only skipping this blue bead. So I'm coming out of a blue bead. I'm going to pick up a blue bead out of my little pile. I'm going to go into the blue bead that's sticking out. Now, I've only got 1 bead left in my little pile here, so I know I'm about ready to do my step up. Now, same thing here. When I pull it up into a tube, this blue bead is sitting next to this red bead. This red bead's sitting next to this purple bead, so I'm really just skipping this red bead. So I'm coming out of a blue, and I've only got a blue left in my little pile. So I'm going to skip this red bead, go into this red bead that's sticking out, and go into the next red bead on the diagonal. That's my step up. Pull my thread through. Get my stop bead out, or my stop bead and the thread out of the way. So now I'm going to take my crochet hook here, and I'm going to put it up through the bottom, and I'm going to push everything up and make it go into a tube. And pull everything tight. Okay, it's not, with these bigger beads, it's not, well, I need to get up here where you can see me. It's not real easy to see the sticking up beads yet. I think it'll get easier in the next round. So I need 1 red bead, 2 blue beads, and 2 purple beads. Put them in a little pile there by themselves. Now, I'm coming out of this red bead. I'm going to pick up a red bead out of my little pile. I'm going to skip this purple bead and go into the next purple bead, which is sticking up, but it's kind of hard to see yet. Pull my thread through. Pull it tight. And that's going to put that red bead up on top of that purple bead that I skipped. Now I'm coming out of a purple bead. I'm going to pick a purple bead up out of my pile. I'm going to skip, I'm coming out of this purple bead. I'm going to skip this purple bead and go into the next purple bead. Pull my thread through. Make sure that pops up on top of that purple bead like it's supposed to. Now I'm coming out of a purple bead. I'm going to pick up a purple bead out of my pile. I'm going to skip this blue bead and I'm going to go into the next blue bead. Make sure that pops up there on top like it's supposed to, and as we go and get more rows in, they'll pop up there. You won't have to make them do it. Keep everything pulled tight. Now, I'm coming out of a blue bead. I'm going to pick up a blue bead out of my pile. I'm going to skip this blue bead and go into this blue bead. Pull my thread through. And that sets that blue bead up on top of that blue bead that I skipped. Now I'm coming out of a blue bead. I only have a blue bead left in my little pile, so I know I'm ready to do my step up. I'm going to skip this red bead that's down here, go into this red bead, and the red bead on the diagonal, and that's my step up. Now I'm going to lay my little beads out here again. I'm going to lay out 1 red bead, 2 blue beads, 2 of my purple beads. Put them in a little pile by themselves there. Now, coming out of a red bead, I'm going to pick up a red bead, skip this purple bead, and go into the purple bead that's sticking up. You can kind of see it sticking up better in this row. Pull my thread through. See, that popped up there that time. I didn't have to make it. Now I'm going to spin my work around here. I'm coming out of a purple bead. I'm going to pick up a purple bead out of my little pile. I'm going to skip this purple bead that's down here, and I'm going to go into this purple bead that's sticking up. Pull my thread through. See, that popped up there. I didn't have to force it. Now, coming out of a purple bead, pick up a purple bead out of my little pile, skip the blue bead that's down here, and go into the next blue bead. Don't get caught around your crochet hook like I'm doing. Pull it through, and that pops that bead up there where it's supposed to go. Now I'm coming out of a blue bead. I'm going to pick up a blue bead out of my little pile. I'm going to skip the blue bead that's down here, and I'm going to go into this blue bead. Pull my thread through. Now I'm coming out of a blue bead. I only have one blue bead left in my pile, so I know it's time to do my step up. I'm going to skip this red bead that's down here. I'm going to go into this red bead and the red bead on the diagonal. That's my step up. Pull it tight. Now I'm going to lay my little beads out again. One red bead, two blue beads, two purple beads. Here in a little pile by themselves. Now I'm coming out of a red bead. I'm going to pick up a red bead, skip the purple bead that's down here, and go into the purple bead that's sticking up. Now I'm coming out of a purple bead, pick up a purple bead out of my little pile, skip the purple bead down here, and go into the next purple bead. Always pull tight, because if you don't, especially with these bigger beads, it can get loose. Now I'm coming out of this purple bead, pick up a purple bead out of my little pile, skip this blue bead that's down here, and go in this blue bead here that's sticking up. My thread was getting wrapped around itself. Okay, now I'm coming out of a blue bead. Pick a blue bead up out of my little pile. Skip the blue bead that's down here. Go in the blue bead that's sticking up. Now I'm coming out of a blue bead. I only have one blue bead left in my pile, so I know it's time for my step up. So I'm going to skip this red bead. I'm going to go through the red bead after it and the red bead on the diagonal, and that's my step up. If you want to, instead of laying your beads out in a little pile every time, if you want to just remember, like in this case, in the design I'm doing here, every time I'm about to go through the first red bead, every time I'm about to go through a red bead, that's my step up. So pull that up there. And I'm going to do it this time without laying my beads out in a little pile, and just to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm coming out of a red bead. I'm going to pick up a red bead. I'm going to skip the purple bead that's down here and go on the purple bead that's sticking up. Spin my work around. I'm going to pick up a purple bead. I'm going to skip this purple bead down here and go on the purple bead that's sticking up. Coming out of a purple bead, I'm going to pick up the purple bead, skip the blue bead that's down here, go on the blue bead that's sticking up. Coming out of a blue bead, I'm going to pick up a blue bead, skip this blue bead, go on the blue bead that's sticking up. And now I'm going to pick up a blue bead. I'm coming out of a blue bead, so I'm going to pick up a blue bead. And I'm about to go into a red bead. So I know this is my step up because it's a red bead. It's my first red bead that I'm going through. So I'm going to skip this red bead down here. I'm going to go through that red bead and the red bead on the diagonal. And that's my step up. I'm going to spin my work. And you can see it's starting to make a little diagonal pattern there. Now I'm going to pick up a red bead. I'm going to skip the purple bead, go into the next purple bead, pick up a purple bead, skip the purple bead, go into the next purple bead. Coming out of a purple bead, I'm going to pick up a purple bead, skip that blue bead, go into the next blue bead. Coming out of a blue bead, I'm going to pick up a blue bead, skip this blue bead, go into the next blue bead, the one sticking up. Coming out of a blue bead, I'm going to pick up a blue bead, and here I'm about to go through my red again, so I know that's my step up. So I'm going to go through this red bead and the one on the diagonal. So I'm going to do one more row with you, and then I'll do the rest of it off camera. coming out of a red bead. I'm going to pick up a red bead, skip the purple, go into the purple that's sticking up. Coming out of a purple bead, pick up a purple bead, skip the purple bead down here and go into the purple bead that's sticking up. Coming out of a purple bead, I'm going to pick up a purple bead, skip this blue bead down here and go into the blue bead that's sticking up. And it is really easy. If you're working and you get into the rhythm of this and your mind wanders, you're thinking about what you're going to make for supper or something. I do it all the time. And it's real easy to see that bead that you're about to go into and think that's the next bead you're supposed to pick up. But it's always the bead you're coming out of. Well, in this case, it's both, because I'm coming out of blue and I'm going into a blue. So I'm going to pick up a blue, I'm going to skip the blue and go into this blue. Now I'm going to be picking up a blue and going into a red. And it's real easy to see that red and think that's the next bead you need to pick up. But it's always the bead you're coming out of. And I mean, if you can go back, and as you go, I always just go back and check my work and make sure my diagonal looks right. If you pick up the wrong bead, and after you get around a little bit, if you go back and look, you'll see your diagonal is off, and you can just go back and take it out. It's not the end of the world. I do it all the time. So now I'm going to pick up a blue. I'm coming out of a blue bead. I'm going to pick up a blue bead. I'm about to go into my red bead, so I know this is my step up. So I'm going to go into my red bead and the one on the diagonal. Now you can lay your beads out in a little pile, so you know when your step up is. You can just note that, you know, in my case, every time I start to go through the first red bead, that's where my step up is. Just whichever works best for you. So I'm going to do the rest of this. I don't know how long I'm going to do it. Maybe this piece of leather is about 18 inches, so I might do, I don't know, 7 or 8 inches of this, and then I'll come back and see if I can get that leather threaded through it. So I'll be back. Okay, I just wanted to show y'all I'm a little bit further along here, and I've taken it off my crochet needle, and I'm going to go ahead and thread my leather down through here, because I'd hate to get this all done and not be able to get it through there. So I mean, I probably could anyway. It's going through there pretty easy, but just in case, I'm going to go ahead and just put that down through there. Well, I said it was going down through there easy, but I can see my little piece of my extender chain down here. I'm going to pull it out with my, there we go. And now I'm just going to continue on and hold it around my leather and finish it like that. So I'll be back. Okay, I'm a little bit further along here. I've got about 3 inches done. I'm not sure how much I'm going to do, just till I think it looks good, I guess. I'm going to have to add thread here, so I want to show you how I do that. And I also want to tell you, if you're holding your piece around something, a crochet hook or a piece of leather, whatever, you'll have to, and you're twirling it around doing your sewing, it's going to get twirled around your whatever you're holding in the center there. So you're just going to have to stop every now and then and unwind it. Just to get it unwound there. Okay, now on this side's where I'm going to add my thread, and I'm coming out here where I've stepped up. You don't have to, it doesn't matter. You can come out anywhere you are. And I'm just going to leave this in here right now. I'm not going to sew this in yet. I'm going to just leave my needle on and everything. And I've got another needle threaded with a long piece of thread and a stop bead. And I'm only leaving about a 6-inch tail, just enough to sew in when I'm done. So I'm going to go down here anywhere in my project here, and I'm going to just put my new thread in, my needle in there, and just pull my thread through till my stop bead stops it. Like that. And then I'm just going to sew around until I'm coming out here where my old thread is coming out, because I want to, that's sort of my little placeholder so that I know where I need to be coming out. I'm just going to go through some beads, just always sew on the diagonal, or like here. I'm getting tangled with my old thread here. Let me get my needle around here. Like right here, I'm coming out of this blue bead right here. I'm going to hop up here into this purple bead. Just always either sew on the diagonal or just sew along there, just as long as you're not crossing any threads or any beads and showing your thread. I'm going to go into this one here now. And I think I'll go on the diagonal up into this one. And I'm wanting to come out that red bead at the top there, so I'm going to get in my little red strip here. I'm going to go up here into this red one and into the one on the diagonal. Then I'm going to go on up through these two red ones. So I'm coming out where my old thread is coming out. I'm going to put my new thread down. I'm going to pick up my old thread. And I'm just going to go back down through here, making sure not to cross over any beads, sewing on the diagonal, or like I'm coming out of this red one, I'm going to hop down here into this purple one. And I'm going to sew on the diagonal. And just like in flat peyote, I don't find that there's a need to make half-hitch knots in here. You can if you want to, but I just sew on the diagonal, and then I hop up, like I'm gonna coming out of that purple one there, I'm gonna hop up here into this red one and go through it and that purple one on the diagonal and just crisscross my thread. And then I'm gonna go over here to this purple one and go up a couple. And then I'm going to go back over here into this purple one and go back down, just crisscrossing my thread. Now I'm going to go over here into this blue one, go up a couple beads. Come back over here to this purple one and go down into that blue one. Just keep crisscrossing my thread. And if you do that, it's not going to come out. I'm going to go up those two, come back over here and go down these two. Go back over here and go back up these two. Now I'm going to come down here and go down this blue one. And the red one there. And then come back over here and go back up these two blue ones. And that's in there good enough. It's not going to come loose, so I'm just going to cut it off. And then I'm going to take my stop bead here off and put a needle on it and do the same thing. Just sew back and forth, crisscrossing my thread until I get it sewed in. And then I'm just going to continue on with my new thread. So I'll be back whenever I get whatever length I decide I want, and we'll cinch up the ends. Okay, here's what I've got now. I did about 8.5 inches. It does not make, when you do it with these bigger 8/0 beads, it doesn't make the most flexible rope, but I think it'll be okay. So you want to, I'm going to do the end, I'm going to close off the end here. And when you do this, you want to be coming out of your step up, because that's all your beads are even at the top. They're all the same. The ones that are sticking out are all the same height there at the top. So I'm coming out of my step up. I'm going to take an 11/0, and I'm going to just put one between all the beads that are sticking up. And because the 11/0 is smaller, that's going to pull it in some. Just going to pull it, kind of pull it in a little bit there as I do it. Now I'm going in the red bead where I started. So I got 5 of my 11-ohs on there. Now I'm going to go back up through this 1 11-oh. First one I put on in this round. Now I'm going to put another 11-oh between just the 11-ohs. And that's going to cinch it in even further. I'm going to put an 11-oh between each of the 11-ohs I just put on here. Okay, now I'm back around to the beginning, back around to the start here. So there, that's what I've got now. Now if you wanted to, you could get some 15-ohs and put them in between here and cinch it down even further. But I'm just going to go through all of the 11-ohs, the 5 I just now put on, not the first 5 I put on, just with my thread. I'm not going to put any beads on. I'm just going to go through this 11-oh and just pull it in. This 11-oh, the ones that are sticking up, pull it in. I'm just going to go around that several times to get good and tight. Just going around all the 5 ones on top there. Just keep going around and pulling it tight till it closes that end up there. So probably just keep doing it until it gets really full of thread and I can't having a hard time getting my needle through, because I want it to be good and cinched in there, closed up. I think this is good here. So that's what I got there. Got it closed up there. So now I'm just going to take my thread and I'm going to go down through and crisscross my threads like I did when I ended the thread off earlier. And then I'm going to go to the other side and take my stop bead off and do this same thing. And then I'll be back. Okay, there it is all done. I think the rope would probably be more flexible if you use the smaller beads. When you cinch it in at the ends here, it makes it pretty tight. I was able to move it enough to get it kind of centered on my leather, but it holds it there. It's not going to go anywhere unless you try to make it go, because it's pretty tight on there. I hope y'all have enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate those of you who have subscribed to my channel and watched my videos and liked and commented on my videos. I have a website where I sell my jewelry. It's Teresa's Handmade Jewelry, and I put a link to it in the description box below in case you're interested, along with a link to my Facebook and Instagram and my email. If you haven't, I'd really love it if you'd subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. So until next time, I hope you all have a great day. Take care.